Okay, on the weekly worksheet that was turned in last Thursday. It's because, okay, on the weekly worksheets, I feel like we're kind of all over the place. Okay, I feel like 1 week you really got it, 1 week it's like it's gone. Okay, and that's the purpose of weekly worksheets, is to get that spiral review so that we don't forget our old stuff. Flip to the back side of this real quick. Okay, the back side was like this week's IXL skill. Everybody in here got over 75% on IXL, all within a reasonable amount of time. But the back side of this worksheet on Thursday was not good for most people. Okay, I don't know if part of it is you're rushing, okay, or you really don't understand it. Maybe someone's helping you with your IXL. But if you have questions, what should you do? Ask for help. Okay, the stuff on this piece of paper, by now we should know these things. And there's some of it that we're going to make some goofy mistakes on. Okay, but if there's a skill on here that you missed every single one, that means it's time to ask for help. Okay, does that make sense? Next week, we have a crazy week. On Monday, we are doing one of these weekly worksheets together in class. It'll look very similar to this one. I actually copied and pasted this and changed the numbers. Okay? On Wednesday, because we don't have school on Tuesday, you will be completing one of these on your own in class. That is your weekly worksheet for next week. It's just you're doing it at school by yourself on Wednesday. Okay? When you do these weekly worksheets, can you look back at old weekly worksheets if you need to? Yes, and that's what's confusing to me right now, is I feel like 1 week you'll get them 100% correct, and then a week later you'll miss them all. Okay, and there's something we're missing. So that's why we're spending really 3 class days going over what's on this piece of paper in front of you. There's a few things I want to go over as a whole, and then really I'm going to turn you loose to do corrections on the ones you missed. I'm going to put up the correct answers. If you can't get to that answer, or you can't figure out why that's the correct answer, I want you to ask for help. Okay, if you only have one to correct, you can correct the one. You can work on your science. Does that all make sense? Okay, so a couple things I want to go over as a whole. Let's start with C here. Actually, let's go to our loose leaf, because I don't like to redo these ones for you. I like to just kind of refresh your memory on problems like that. So let's title our loose leaf Weekly Worksheet Reminders. Okay, and if you're doing corrections, you'll just do your corrections on this piece of paper too. So let's go ahead and write and corrections. Weekly worksheet reminders and corrections. And I'm going to call this C because that's what problem it is on the weekly worksheet. Okay, I'm going to give us one like C. And we are going to work it out. Who remembers what math problem 6 squared is telling me to do? Ava? 6 times 6. It's telling me to repeat the base number 2 times. The exponent tells me how many times to multiply the base number by itself. So we would write 6 times 6, but then we find the value of that. Augie, what is 6 times 6? 36. Okay, I think some of us have forgotten exponents, and that's why we just keep throwing them at you so you don't forget them. Okay, the next thing I wanted to discuss is E and F. So I'm going to write E and F, and it is mixed number to improper fraction. Okay, and you guys all know what a mixed number is. What is a mixed number? Who can tell me what a mixed number is? Elise? Yeah, a whole number and a fraction together. What is an improper fraction? Braylon?
So where the biggest number is on the top and the lowest number is on the
Yeah, it's a fraction where the number on top is bigger than the number on bottom. Okay, so I'm going to make one up. Oh, wait, mixed number. So I'm going to give us a mixed number. Let's do 3 2/5. Remember, we're coming up with an improper fraction. So I'm going to go ahead and put my fraction bar because my answer should be a fraction. Gabe, how do I do these?
You would do 3 times 5 plus 2.
Yeah, so we kind of do the wheel. We start at the bottom, okay, and we wheel ourselves around to up there. And he's right, we do multiply first. So we do start at the bottom. So 5 times 3 is what?
15.
And then we have to add that top number. What's 5 times 3 plus 2? 17. I have some people giving me 17 as the final answer. Is that an improper fraction? No. Bryson, how do I get my denominator?
The bottom number on the
Yeah.
517.
The 5 just pushes over. Okay, a lot of you are trying to skip the work on that and you're getting messed up. Does it take long to show that work? No, and that's a visual model that kind of helps you visualize what has to happen. You can see us going around from the bottom to the top of the other one, and that 5 just pushes over. Okay, the next one, EF, so G and H. G and H were improper. I'm just going to write improp arrow mixed. Okay, it's kind of backwards from what we just did on the other ones. Hutley? Okay. Okay, so this one I would give you an improper fraction and you would give me a mixed number. So I'm going to do 27 fifths. 27 fifths. Now, my answer is going to be a mixed number, so I'm going to leave a space and then put a fraction because I will have a whole number and then a fraction. You don't have to do the squiggly, I just left a space there. What's the denominator of my fraction going to be, Lexi? How do you know?
Because that's the denominator of 27.
Yeah, it doesn't change. So some of you that are doing all the right work, but you have trouble reorganizing it and knowing what numbers go where, if you are going improper to mixed or mixed to improper, the denominators are staying the same. Okay, because some of us are struggling. Once we do our long division, we're confused on where we put all of the numbers. So that's one way to know that that's going to stay a 5. Hutley, how do I do these?
You draw that box and then you put 27 inside and 5 outside.
Yeah, we're doing 27 divided by 5. Remember, a fraction is just a division sign. A fraction bar is a division sign. Lainey, how many times does 5 go into 27? 5 times. Okay, what is 5 times 5? 25. We subtract, and I have a remainder of 2. Now, if you need to process it and write remainder 2, that's an okay place to start, but do we want to give it as a remainder? No. Our whole number stays the same, 5. What does the 2 become? Bryson? The top number on the fraction, which is the numerator. If I didn't know that it was going to be a 5 because it's the same, how else do I get that 5? Elise? The divisor. The divisor. So what I'm dividing by is my denominator. So that would be 5 2/5. Okay, and just to model that for you, okay, that's saying like I have 27 pieces of candy and I'm splitting it between how many people? 5. So I'm going to draw this. You guys don't have to draw it. I'm just trying to show you where that 2/5 is coming from. So if I'm dividing, there's my 5 people, and I say Jackson gets 1, Elia, Wyatt, Lainey, Mason. How many pieces have I passed out? 5. Okay, then I got to do another one. How many pieces of candy have I passed out? 10. 15. I have 27. 20. 25. Now, if I go back and pass out my leftovers, who would be upset here? The last 3 people, because everybody got 5 pieces, but then only 2 out of the 5 got an extra piece. Okay, that's where that 2/5 come from. 2 out of the possible 5. Or if I want to be technical, I could take those last 2 pieces of candy and split them into fifths. Take a little piece of candy, cut each one into 5 pieces, and each person gets 2 of those 5 pieces. Does that kind of make sense? Okay? So we're still struggling. Some of us, a lot of you are getting to here. You just struggle putting the numbers in the correct spot over there. Okay, so that's why we're doing these notes. So you have something to look back on if you get confused. Or if you're like, hey, these are the ones I kind of mess up on sometimes. Take a step back and look at them. Okay, the next one's on the paper. I think we did okay. No, on I, there's one I want to go over. Let's do problems like 30 times 10 to the 4th power. Jackson, where do I start?
3 times 1.
No. That'll be important in a second. Elia.
Rewrite it and instead of putting 10 to the 4th power, put 4 zeros.
Yeah, so right there, we're going to actually even take a step back because a lot of people miss this one because you're trying to do it too quickly. So we're going to break it into step by step. Elia, what is this telling me to do? 10 to the 4th power.
Write a 1 and then add 4 zeros.
Okay, but what math problem is that telling me to do? You're even ahead of where I am.
1 plus.
Let's look back up at the first problem we did on this paper. The exponents. What do exponents tell me to do, Addie B? Yeah, that's telling me to take 10 times 10 times 10 times 10. And from here, you could really just drop down that 30, and it's really one long mental math problem. Elia was saying she knew that 10 to the 4th was a 1 with 4 zeros behind it. And she's correct, so she can remember that. Her way works. If you're missing these, that didn't stick, so I'm showing you another way. If you write this out, it's still mental math. What's 3 times 1 times 1 times 1 times 1? 3. Then we count up our zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Add in our commas. Okay, so if the exponents are what's confusing you, take a step back. Write out what 10 to the 4th power is telling you, and then you just have a longer mental math problem. Does that make sense? Okay. J. I'm going to go over. You guys can go down or over wherever you're at on your paper. Let's see. $45,000/90. What do you have to know here, Lexi? That's a division problem for one, okay? Some of you guys mixed division and multiplication here. You divided the whole numbers, but you combined all the zeros. So first you have to know that that is a division bar. I'm going to keep saying it. I think a lot of you do better if you take the extra second and write it out like that. Jackson, what work can I show now that I have it a little bit prettier?
You do 45 divided by 9.
Okay, what is 45 divided by 9? 5.
And cross off your first set of zeros.
Okay, because there's one on top, one on bottom.
And then add your 2 zeros.
Add our 2 zeros. Okay, if this one were on that worksheet in front of you, a lot of people would have put 50,000 because they just counted the zeros here. They'd put 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros, but they'd do 45 divided by 9. So you kind of mix the two rules together. Okay, again, if it's a division problem, I'm highly suggesting, unless you're getting them all right, to write it this way. Okay, because it's just a visual. You guys see if they're on top of each other, you know to slash them. Let's go to L. You guys did pretty good on K. L. Let me make one up here. We'll do a division one. I'm going to write this one 2 ways, just because I want to clarify that these 2 problems are exactly the same. Okay, those 2 problems are exactly the same, it's just they're written different. Sorry, I should have wrote estimate. This said, the direction said estimate. So no matter how it's written, my suggestion, if it's written like that, you go ahead and change it to that form, because that just works better with our brains. Those are the same problem. It's 43,984 divided by 68. Now, estimates. Should we get remainders on estimates? No. On the paper that I collected yesterday, not a lot, but I saw some estimates that had like remainder 1, remainder 2. Remember, estimates should be mental math. They should go back to a problem that looks like this one up here if we're doing it correctly. If you're doing long division, you're doing it wrong. Remember, estimates should be quick and easy mental math problems. Where do I start, Clara? When I'm looking at this problem, trying to estimate it, where do I start? Which number up here? Nope, not with the 43,000. Lainey? Nope. Ava? The 68, the divisor. Okay, this is where our focus should go first. We have to change that to a pretty number, so we round it to the nearest what, Bryson? 10. The nearest 10. Bryson, what's the nearest 10 to 68? 70. Now, Clara, where should our eyes go? Now that I know I'm rounding it to 70. Yeah, 43. So I'm looking for multiples of 7. It's always just the first 2 digits. Multiples of 7 that are close to 43. Gabe? 42. Do you guys all agree that 42 is a multiple of 7 and it's close to 43? So we would change this to 42. How many zeros do I need behind that, Lexi? 3. And again, I underline it because sometimes we change this to like a 10 and that messes up our brain with zeros. So I'm saying I'm replacing a 43 with a 42, and then I add 3 numbers. And again, I'm going to keep telling you, when you're doing the actual math, take the extra 3 seconds and write it vertically so that your brain can process it. Carter, what do I do now? 42 divided by 7 is what? 6. Do I add 4 zeros behind that? /1, add 2. Okay, flip your paper to the back, your weekly worksheet. Now, the back I'm not going to go over much, but I don't think some of you use the table at the top. What is that table at the top giving me? What is that table giving me, Elise?
It's giving what place value it is.
It's telling me the names of the different places. Okay, it has the word decimal point, but like on this one, I'm just going to do this one right here. Here is my decimal point. So here is my decimal point on my table. So here is my decimal point on my table. Here's my decimal point in the problem. I'm talking about the place just to the right of the decimal point. So here's my decimal point. What place is just to the right of the decimal point? Ava? The 10th place. Now I want you to look at those. Are some of them commas, some of them decimal points? Yes. Okay, there are decimal points and commas down there. On rounding, circle your focus number. Show this number is telling me what's going to happen to that number. Okay, and again, I'm not spending a ton of time going over these because you guys all did that as an IXL skill this week, and everybody got above 75. Okay, so if you're still confused about those bottom ones, just ask, and I can help you individually. Okay, so we still have 20 minutes of class time. I'm going to put a task list up here on the board. Okay, first thing you're going to do is correct your weekly worksheet. Okay, and you're going to do it on that piece of loose leaf that you already have taken some notes on. Okay, correct your weekly worksheet on loose leaf. Once you get that done, you can work on your science IXL. Does that all make sense? If you need help, what should you do? Ask, okay? It's okay to get confused. It's not okay to stay confused. I will put the answers up shortly so you can check them.